Hello, welcome back to another Godot tutorial. Today we are going to be making this incremental farming game. As you can see, you can grow a plant, and then once it grows, you'll be able to harvest it for some money, and you'll be able to use that money to buy more plants and to make them grow faster. And this goes infinitely. You can just buy an infinite amount of more plants. As always, my goal with these Godot tutorials is to give you a full game in one tutorial that you can go and make, and then you can go and make a bunch of other games. On screen right now, I'm going to put a bunch of games that people in my Discord made from my last tutorial. It was another incremental tutorial. This one's going to be pretty similar. It's for beginners. It's for people just trying to get their feet wet in Godot, but it does cover just a little bit more of an advanced topic, which is to instantiate game objects. And these plants here, we're going to be making them into game objects, and we're going to be copying them, and this button here is just going to make you make copies of these little buttons, which is a useful skill to have. My plan here, though, is to keep making more advanced tutorials, so subscribe, follow me, give me some comments in the description for tutorials that you'd like to see. I'm also building a course for more advanced topics that will be in the description of this video once it's finished. And if you would like some one-on-one lessons or a one-on-one Zoom with me to talk about a game that you're making, or just to get some private lessons on some specific things that you want to learn about, there's going to be a Google form in the description you can fill out to get into contact with me. But with that, let's get started. First things first is to start a new Godot file. So I didn't cover this last time, but I figured I'd cover it this time. You want to click Create. I usually pick compatibility mode because I like posting stuff on the web, but it doesn't really matter what you pick. We're going to name this Farm Tutorial. I already have one called Farm Tutorial, so I'm going to make this one called Farm Tutorial 2. And here we go. We're chilling inside of Godot. Today we're mostly going to be using these user interface nodes. As you can see right over here, they're these little green ones with the green circle, and it says user interface. And the first thing that we're going to do right here, right now, is to click this user interface node over here on the left-hand side. Once you've done that, you can see you've made this little control node, and you can see you've got this big orange rectangle. That means that you are good to go. Now, the first thing we're going to try to build here are these little plant nodes, which I'll put it on the screen right now. This little plant button that you click it and it grows this plant. You are more than free to make your own plant sprite, but if you would like these plant sprites, I will put them available for download in the description. Just click on my Discord link, jump in there. There should be a section in the Discord called Downloads, and look for the one called Plant Sprites or Plant Tutorial Sprites. Download those because that is what we're going to make first. Well, actually, first we're going to make the basic screen of the game, which if you follow the last tutorial, you'll know how to do that. But if this is your first tutorial, we'll walk you through that right now. So first things first, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab what's called a margin container, and we're going to slap that puppy right under here. So you click Control, just like so. You click this little plus button, and then you come over here. You can type in marg, or you can scroll until you find margin container. Then you're going to click create, just like that. I have already done that, and as you can see, I have a margin container inside of my control node, and you can see this little line shows that it's inside of the control node. That is good. The next thing we want to do is up here, this little blue or this green ball here. You want to click that, and you want to click full rect. Now, rect means rectangle, and when we click full rect, it makes the margin container take up the full amount of space. This rectangle represents our screen, and we want the margin container to take up the full screen. So we have our margin container. The next thing we want to put inside of here is what's called a VBox container. Now, this VBox container is so that we can have, as you can see right here, it's got like a bunch of little lines. VBox containers are going to make a big list of stuff. So we're going to have a bunch of things inside of here, and this VBox container is going to make sure that they stack on top of each other. This margin container is going to give us a little bit of margin around the outside of our orange box here. Inside of our VBox container, we are going to get a scroll container because we are going to want to scroll, and inside of our scroll container, we are going to get what is called a grid container. So we're going to do a grid container right here. Perfect. So I'll show you what all that does in just a second. But before we can make anything happen is continue to add nodes. So we are going to add just a few more things to make our plant. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make one plant, and then we're going to take that little plant structure that we make, that little blueprint, we're going to save that as its own scene, and then we're going to copy it. Got a VBox container on it. It's got a texture rect, but we need the texture rect in this tutorial in order for things to work out. So we need a texture rect, and then inside of this VBox, this is going to be our plant. So we're going to rename this VBox plant. And then still click on this VBox, and we're still clicking this plus tool, and we're going to keep adding things. We're going to add a button, and we are going to add an animation player. Sweet. Cool. So we've got all these things in here, and if we zoom in really far, you can see we've got a texture rect that's empty, a button, the animation player is invisible. That's okay. All right. That's our little node inside of our grid container. And if I click on this grid container and I hold down Control D, I can make a bunch of copies of it. And as you can see, it's turn them into not necessarily a grid, but I can mess with the columns on the grid so that they spread out and are at different levels. But we can mess with that later. So I'm gonna delete all these. Hopefully you didn't make a bunch of copies like that. But let's make our plant. Let's check it out. In order for us to see our plant, we need to actually put our plant inside of this texture rect just so that we can have a visual that'll pop up that we can kind of mess with the size of. So let's import our sprites. So if you've downloaded your sprites, you're gonna do the following thing. So hopefully you've got your sprites somewhere where you can click and drag them. I've got mine right here in a folder called Farm Sprites. So I definitely wanted to talk about this. Some people just get confused when you download things. Not everybody gets confused. If you already know this, you know this. If you don't, you don't. But as you can see, if I try to drag this zip straight into Godot, it doesn't really do anything. It sucks. It's not good. But if I drag this folder into Godot, we're good to go. It puts my farm sprites right in there. So when you download a zip folder, you got to click on it. You got to come over here. You got to drag the farm sprites onto your desktop to get the unzipped version of it, and then drag that into your Godot. Yes, there are different ways that you can do that. That is not necessarily the most efficient way, but that's the way that's going to make sense to a lot of beginners that don't understand compressed files. There you go. So now we're back in Godot. We have our farm sprites right here. They're imported into Godot. You can just click on this little caret here, and it will give you a bunch of little PNGs, which is fun. We like PNGs. These are pictures of our animation. And yes, you can use sprite sheets, but when you're using texture rects, like I'm using in this video here, it's a lot easier to use PNGs. And yeah, if you'd like to learn how to use sprite sheets, there's going to be other tutorials on that in the future. But for now, we're using PNGs because it's beginner friendly. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Just for a test round, just so that we can see what's going on, we're going to grab one of these pictures that looks a little bit brighter. So down here, I've got these pictures. This is a picture of like the little root part of the stem. It's not very visible, so I don't want to use that. I'm going to use this fully grown tree right here inside of my texture rect. So I'm going to click my texture rect. You zoom out here for a second. I'm going to grab this tree, this number 25. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it over here to texture. Okay. And as you can see, it made something a little bit visible. And the reason why we're doing this is not for any particular reason, but we're doing this so that we can see what we're doing as we kind of set the dimensions over here, because we're going to set the sizes of these texture rects and of these VBox containers, and we want everything to look correct on our screen. So I'm putting a big visual image as the texture so that I can set the parameters. All right, so let's check out what we can do here. All right, let's go ahead and when we are setting the sizes of things, it's going to go in order of top to bottom. So right now our control is set to this big full size screen. So that's good. Margin container, full rect. Awesome. VBox container, also full rect. Sweet. Looks like the scroll container is pretty small. So that might be why we can only see a part of our plant. So let's click the scroll container. And when we're messing with sizes, it's always going to be in our layout tab. All right. So all of these are going to have a layout tab. But like I said, you start from the top and you go down and you kind of just see what size everything is. And we're just going to make sure everything's the right size all the way down. It requires a lot of diligence and patience, but we have plenty of that. So let's check this out here. I'm going to click on the layout tab. And what I usually am looking for is this tab inside of the layout tab called container sizing. And it usually doesn't give me exact sizes like numbers and stuff. You can set some numbers and I can show you how to do that later if we need to. But generally you want it to say fill and then expand. And as you can see, we clicked expand. If you watch this little orange part up here, I'm going to zoom out so you can see it. See how the orange part right now is this really thin bar and we can't see our tree. But if we click expand, now it has expanded. Our scroll container now has expanded to be the entire screen. And like I was trying to show you before, we have this grid container that is holding our plants inside of a grid. If I control D, so to duplicate this plant, I don't want you to do this, but just to show you, you can see it starts to put it into a grid. Right? So I've told my grid container to make to have 4 columns up here. Columns 4. If I set it to 5 columns, you can see it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then however many plants I have in there, it will just make sure that it follows 5 columns, right? So you can see how real quick here we can have lots and lots of plants. I'm going to set it to the size that looks good to me. You can set it to whatever size that you want, but we're going to continue sizing these things. I'm going to control Z all the way back to get it so that we just have our one plant for now. So don't make a bunch of plants yet. Don't worry, we're going to make a bunch of plants soon, but I just was trying to explain spacing to you guys. So right now we've got a real small plant here. If we go up here up top and hit play, my face is blocking it, so the mouse is right here on play, but when I zoom in, my face is blocking it. But you can see this little play button right up here in the top right. We're going to hit play. Godot is going to ask us, no main scene has ever been defined. Would you like to select one? You can change it later in the project settings under the application category. A lot of people are wondering what the heck that means. Godot is just wondering what the main part of your game is. And generally, when you're first building a game, the main scene that you care about is the one that you're actually building. Our main scene is this one. It starts with control and has all this stuff in it. So we're going to tell Godot, yes, Godot, this scene called control is our main scene. So we're going to just save it. And it saves it straight in here, down here. We've got a scene now called control. That is all of this. All right. So I'm going to hit this reset up here. It's this little blue thing up in the right hand corner. Again, my face is kind of blocking it, but we'll hit it. And here we go. We have our game. And if we open it up full screen, you can see our plant is very tiny. So we're going to want to make it a little bit bigger. And we're probably going to want to make it so it's closer to the center of the screen, because it's off to the side. It doesn't look very good. So let's continue down this path and see if we can, like I said, move it closer to the center of the screen and make it a little bit bigger before we save it as something else. All right, let's check it out. How should we do this? So, like I was saying, when you're messing with sizing and I guess spacing, you always want to go to this layout tab. So we're going to go click inside of grid container, because grid container is going to control where the plant is. And like I said, I kind of want to move it to the center of the screen. So let's do that first, and then we'll start sizing the plant up. All right, so I'm going to click on the grid container and go over here to layout again. Once again, the layout tab, we love it. And we're going to click on container sizing again. Even though we don't care as much about the sizing, we care about the spacing, we still have these other options in here. So remember before how I was like, we can do expand and expand. That doesn't really do a whole lot with the grid container, because it does expand it, but like we don't really care if the grid container is expanded. We want it to put the plant in the center of the screen. So it has these options here that I like to use. Instead of fill, we can say shrink center and shrink beginning, shrink end. All right, so it's asking us on the horizontal axis, which is left and right, what do we want it to do? If I hit expand right now, you can see it expands horizontally, but I want it to expand in the center. I want it to shrink center. So I'm going to say, all right, I want you to shrink to the center, but I want you to expand horizontally in the center. So if I click expand now, what it does is it will expand itself and then it will shrink itself into the center like I just asked it to. And it's the same for vertical. If I want it to shrink to the center, I can expand it, and we can see we've got our plant right in the middle of the screen. And if we hit play, there it is in the center of the screen. And because we have these expand things on, no matter how far I stretch my screen or how big or small it is, the plant will stay in the center of the screen, which is great. So now we've got this grid container working for us, keeping our plant in the center of the screen. If, again, I'm just testing this, if I add a bunch of other plants, it will also keep those in the center of the screen. Same as if I hit play, we've got all those in the center of the screen. It's starting to look a little bit like a game. All right, so I'm going to get rid of these. If for some reason you did copy and paste these with me, Control D is to get them to duplicate, and Control Z is to undo what you just did. But let's mess with the size of the plant here before we start saving it as a separate scene and start coding it and making it work, right? Let's check it out. All right, so what we want to do here is we might be tempted to just click on this V-box and make the V-box bigger, but if we make the V-box bigger, this thing that the plant is sitting in, it's not going to do anything. And I can show you, so we can click this layout tab, and if we type in 100 on the X and 100 on the Y. Don't follow what I'm doing right now. I'm just showing you. You can see it made this square bigger. It made the V-box bigger, but it kind of stretched things out in a way that's not super satisfying. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the text direct, which is just our plant, remember? And inside the text direct, we're going to click layout. And we're going to no, not container sizing. We're going to mess with the X and the Y. All right, so these custom minimums, basically we're telling the game the minimum size that this square can be is what I say right here. Right now it's set to 0, 0, but it defaults to whatever size your sprite is. So I think this sprite is a 32 by 32 sprite. That's 32 pixels. So it's a big square with 32 dots. The area is, 32 times 32. In here, we're just going to type 100 by 100 because we still want it to stay a square. And you can see it stretches out a little bit. So I think that's the size we're going to go for, and we can test it when we hit play. If it looks good on our screen, that looks like a good sized plant, and I'm cool having other plants be about that size. That looks cool to me. We can see it's a little blurry. So same as in the last tutorial, we're going to go down here to texture. Right here in canvas item and make sure that you are clicked on your text direct, and you're going to go over here to texture inside of canvas item, and you're going to make sure that filter says nearest, and you can see now it looks nice and crisp and clean. Now let's go ahead and try to make this button the right size. I'm pretty sure if we just type some text in it, it'll make it look okay. Yeah, sweet. That will make it look nice, and then we're going to check really quick. Yeah, I think everything's chilling. I think we're good. I think that's going to be our plant. And what we want to happen when we click plant is we want it to play an animation where the plant grows. So that's what we're going to try to do next. But before we do any of that, we are going to save plant as its own scene. Okay? So I'm going to right click on the V-box here, and we're going to hit Save Branch as Scene. And it's cool if we just call it Plant. Boom. Plant has now been saved as its own scene. And we can click right here on this little button, and it will bring us to the plant scene. And you can see up here, we've got control and we've got plant. This is our main game menu thing. And now plant is its own thing, off on its own. It doesn't matter. Even though we still have this big purple border that represents our screen, this is not our game. This is just a game object called plant, and this is what a lot of people who use Unity called prefabrication, or making a prefab. So we are going to make plant basically run on its own and do its own thing, and we're going to give it a script and have plant be its own game object. And then we're going to take in here inside of control, and we're going to spawn a bunch of plants inside of our grid container, and the plants are going to be able to do their own things by themselves. So instead of programming a bunch of plants individually and connecting every single button to the control, we're just going to program plant one time and then copy that plant over and over and over again. All right, so this is important if you're trying to make upgrade buttons or just any game item that you need to repeat. This is a really nice thing to know, is to break it off into its own scene and make it so you can copy it. So now we have plant by itself. Any changes we make over here will automatically translate to the copies of plant that we have in the other scene. So I can prove that here if I change this. Instead of saying plant, if I call it plant in all capitals and I hit Control S. So up here, when you see a little star, that means that this scene is not saved, but if I hit Control S, that means now it is saved. So we can go over to Control, and you can see it now says plant here, our version of plant, and I can duplicate plant a couple of times to see what we're doing. And if I go back over here and I change the text of the button again to say Bloot with an exclamation point, and then I hit Control S to save, I can check this all out. They all say Bloot. So whatever change I make to plant is going to apply to all of the copies that I have over in the other scene, which is a good thing. So let's check this out. Let's add a script. Well, let's make the animation first. That's what we should probably do first. So let's check that out first. And before I do that, I'm going to change the button back to plant. And let's check this animation player out. Click the animation player, which is here, right? And then down here, click animation, click new, and it's going to pop up with this guy. It's going to ask us what we want to name it. I'm going to name this, I'm going to name it Grow, and hit OK. Sweet. So it's given us this little thing down here in animation. If you don't know, that's okay. I'll go over it with you. All right. First things first, we want to set the first frame of our animation. So animations are just picture books. Okay. This is why we are working with this farm sprite that has a bunch of pictures in it. It's a big flip book. It starts here with a stem or a seed, and it gets to here, which is a big tree. All right. So we're going to start with our stem and get to the big tree. But first things first, in our text direct, we want to place the very first frame of our animation. So I'm going to click on my text direct, which is right up here. We've clicked on it. It's highlighted in blue. And I'm going to come down here to our sprite tree 00 PNG, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to drag it. You can see I've got it dragged. It's in my mouse, and I'm going to drag it all the way over here into our texture property. And as you can see, our plant is now a little nub. That's fine, okay? Because we have an animation player in here, you can see there are these little tiny white things to the right of all of the properties in here. These are keys, okay? And it allows you to set a keyframe. So if you have an animation player open, which you do down here, all of these little tabs do different things. I've got our animation player open. If that's open, it will let you click on these keys. And we're going to key our first frame. So we're just going to click on this key, and it's going to ask us if we want to start a new track, and we want to say yes. And we want to make sure that this says grow before we do any of that. And now what that has done is it's made our first keyframe right here, which is this little diamond. And that little diamond represents this nub. So when this blue thing, this is called the playhead. So you can see this blue thing kind of runs along here. As it runs along here, it's going to run into each one of these keyframes, and that keyframe is going to tell the text direct to change to a different image. So what it does at first is it hits that first thing. It says, hey, change to the little nub. And what we want to happen after that is we want it to change to the slightly bigger stem of the plant as it starts to grow. So what I like to do, especially when I'm doing PNGs, is I like to come down here to my snap menu. And now it's saying that when I click and drag this this thing, it will snap every 0.00 or 0.0333 milliseconds. I want it to snap to every 0.1 because, as you can see now that I'm grabbing it, it snaps a lot easier. And I can make better animations if I do that. And you can see it only stretches out to the 1 second mark. But if I come all the way over here to this little stopwatch, see where it says 1? If I type in, I think this is going to be like a 3 or 4 second long animation. Let's just do 3 for now. I can type in 3 seconds and I can hit enter. We can go back and we can see now our playhead goes all the way to 3, which is cool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag it out to the next part. Instead of clicking on the keyframe a bunch of times, which is kind of annoying, I found the easiest way to do this is to click this little diamond to where it turns blue, and then you hold down Control C on your keyboard, or you can right click and go copy keys, and then you move your playhead to where you want it. We don't want it on 0, we want it on 0.1, and then we can hit Control V, or we can right click and go paste, and we've pasted another little diamond. And I like to paste as many diamonds as I can just by dragging the playhead and going Control V, Control V, Control V, and just getting as many of them as I can get. If you want to speed it up, you can click and drag all of them and go Control C to copy, drag the playhead to an empty space and go Control V, and you can copy paste a whole bunch of them. I'm going to expand my space, my workspace, so that I can have more room. And now I've got a bunch of keyframes. They all are just the nub, which is okay. We're going to replace that. But let's come over here. This thing right here allows you to zoom in and out. So as I zoom out, I can see more of these keyframes. And you can see these little bridges connecting the keyframes. That means that the next keyframe next to it is the same image as the last one. So it's like, hey, I'm the first image, and this one's like, I'm also the first image. If you click on the second one here, you grab the second frame, and you drag it all the way up to this value property here. I'm going to zoom out so that you can see that. So you click tree 1, drag it up here to the value property. You can zoom back in and you can see that the bridges aren't connecting anymore because this is a different image than this one. And the process now is this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So we're going to click on this next one right here. This is 2. And we're going to grab the second image, number 2, and we're going to drag it all the way up to value up here. And we're going to do that over and over again. So this is now 3. This is 4. And we're going to do that all the way. And as you can see, before we start anything, as the playhead goes over each one of these, you can see it start to grow up right here, right? If you watch that. The plant is growing. So that's what an animation is. It just changes it to the next picture. So go ahead and take a second to do that. I'm just going to cut ahead because I'm just going to grab all these and drag them over. Okay, so I have filled in all my images. It looks like I still have a lot of extra keyframes here that I didn't use. So I can click in this empty space here and drag this square to select all of the empty ones that I didn't use. And I can right click on one of them and click delete, which will get rid of them. And it looks like my animation ends at about 2.5 seconds. So over here, I'm going to enter 2.5 to make sure that I bring my animation down to normal. And if I hit this square right here, it will bring my playhead back to the beginning, and I can hit this play button here to watch my animation play. And it looks like the tree grows. Cool. We got a growing tree. Huzzah. All right. If we play the game, nothing happens because we haven't made the button do anything yet. All right. And you notice if I hit play the game, it plays our main scene. So it plays the control scene. If you want to just play this specific scene, you can hit this button up here, which looks like a little movie thing. And that'll play your specific scene, and we can just play this one plant scene. All right, that's how those buttons work. But let's go ahead and program this plant button. We have our animation made. This is, again, pretty much the same as my incremental tutorial so far. But my plan with these tutorials is to just make them slightly more complicated as we go. And all of them are for beginners, so I want people who've never seen any of my tutorials to be able to jump in. and see what's going on. So sorry to people who've been here before and have seen this. That is okay. Thanks for sticking around even if you have been here. So on plant, we're going to click this to make a script. It's okay. We're going to name it plant. We're going to click create. Now we've got some script. I will zoom in for you so you can see what happens. If you would like to zoom in or out, if you hold down Control and press plus while your cursor is on this screen, it will make the code bigger if you hit plus, smaller if you hit minus. The plus and minus keys are up by your backspace key on the keyboard. That is how you do it. We are going to delete all of this, except for the extends VBox container. All right, cool. Let's program a plant. First things first, let's get the button involved, all right? I'm gonna click on this button, and as you can see over on the right, it's opened up this context menu called the inspector. We're gonna click on this tab called node. We're gonna click on this button called pressed, and we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom, and we're gonna click connect. Okay, it's gonna bring up this menu that says, where would you like to connect? It can only connect to scripts, so we're just going to click connect because it's just saying, hey, I want to connect to this plant script. And you're saying, yep, connect to the plant script. And now what we have is a function that says on button pressed, do something. And what do we want it to do? Well, we want it to play our animation. So I'm going to grab my animation player. I'm going to hold, I'm going to click on it and see I've got it on my mouse. I'm dragging it. While I have it dragged, I'm going to press the control key and then I'm going to let go of my mouse. And what that does is it tells the script where the animation player is. It says there's an animation player inside of this scene and it's called animation player. You can name this whatever you want. You could call it butt. But when you reference butt in code, if you say butt.play, and we want it to play the grow animation, that's going to be kind of hard to make sense of. You're going to be like, okay, what is butt again? Oh, butt's an animation player. So I normally just like to leave this as the name animation player, just so that there's no confusion. So there's animation player. Come down here, make sure you delete this pass, and make sure you keep this tab in here. If you ever lose that tab, you can come up here with your cursor and hit enter, and you'll get a tab, or you can just press the tab key on your keyboard. See, like every time I press tab, it makes another one of those arrows. We like those arrows. So hit tab, make an arrow, and then we want to say animation player, and we want to access the play function of the animation player. So we're going to say animation player dot play, and we're going to call our animation grow. It's called grow. So we're going to say play the animation grow. We need to put it inside of quotes. Make sure you do quotes, and we're going to say play grow. Let's go ahead and test that. We're going to go up here to hit play. Oops, I've hit Z in there by accident. We're going to go up here and hit play. And now if I hit all these, looks like our plants actually grow. Sweet. But every single time I hit these, it just plays the animation again. And what I want to happen is I want it to say harvest, and I want to get money, and I want to do all this fun stuff, but we got to do other variables to do that. We're running out of time. It's already been 37 minutes. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. Before we do anything, we need to display the money properly. And you might be like, oh, I got this, Mr. Robinson. We're just going to put var money right here. And then when the plant grows, I can just do money plus equals 1. We're good to go, man. Sweet, no problem. But the problem with that, my good friend, is that if we do that, all of our plants will have a variable called money inside of them, and they'll all be adding their own money to their each individual money variable. So they're all going to have their money variable with money being added to them, and then we'll have 4 different money variables. We just want one variable called money because we just want one bucket that all the plants add to. So, and we also want money to be displayed on our main game screen, not just inside of the plant. So this brings up a problem. Where do we put money, and how do we add to that? This is an issue. How do you and this is, as you get more complicated with video games, you start to have like lots of little game parts that are contained or self-contained, and how do they get data from what they're doing to other parts of the game. This is one of the fundamental problems in game design that you have to figure out how to solve. We're going to solve it today using what is called a global variable or a singleton. And the way that we're going to do that is up here. We're going to go to project. We're going to project settings. We're going to click on globals. And right here, we're going to type in global. And we're going to click add. It's going to say, do you want to make something called global? We're going to click, yeah, let's do it. And then we're going to click close. All right. All that did is it made a little script for us called global. And it's over here. And it's not in any of the scenes. It just exists outside of all the scenes. All right. It's like a big cloud that can store data. So inside of global, we're going to delete everything except for node. So all I did to get here is I double clicked on global and it opened up global inside of my script editor. Inside of global, we're going to make a variable called money. Okay, and money is just going to equal 0 because you start out with 0 money, and we're going to save that. That's all that we're going to put in global for now. All right, you can right click on global and close it. I might ask you if you want to save. You say yes. Okay, so for now, just for now, when we press this grow button, I'm just going to have it add some money. This is just a test for now. We're going to change this later. So if you don't want to add this yet, you don't have to, but we're going to run this test. If you want to do it together, I suggest that you do. So we're going to add money. And right now it says error, money does not exist. But we're going to say, yeah, actually it does, sir. If we type in global.money, oh, suddenly it does exist. So now global is this big cloud that we can say, hey, global, we know that money exists up there inside of that global script. Let me add 1 to that money. And the cool part is now we can go back to our control and we can put a script on control because we don't, like I said, inside a plant, we don't want to display our money inside a plant. We want to display our money like up here in the corner or something inside of control. So let's come up with a place we want to put that money first. I think we should put it, because I've already made this before, we're just going to follow what I did before. But normally you could put this wherever you want. But we're going to click on this V box and we're going to add an H box. Nice, we have an H box. Make sure you click and drag that H box and make sure it's above the scroll container. And inside that H box, we're going to add a label. Nice, we got that label. Cool. That label, go ahead and click on it. Come over here to inspector, and we're just going to type M or money, just whatever you want to type. It doesn't matter. We just need to be able to see the label. So type some text so we can see it. I'm going to go ahead and click the label, and I'm going to rename it money label. All right. And then I'm going to click on control, and I'm going to add a script. And I'm going to click create. And now we have our control script. I'm going to delete all this crap. Actually, I should not have deleted all that crap. I'm going to delete all of this. If you accidentally did delete it, because I said delete it, you can press Control Z to get it all back again. So I'm going to keep this process function. This is probably the worst way to do this. If you're making a big game, this is not efficient at all. This is why you have games that are unoptimized. But I'm going to teach you the unoptimized way to build games. So really easy way to display money. So we're going to grab our money label. Same as before. You grab it and then you hold down control and then you let go and you have something called money label. Sweet. And then right here, you're going to delete pass. You're going to write money label. So we have this label, and in the label, we want to display how much money that we have, right? How much money do we have? Well, our plants are adding numbers to our global money variable. So what we would like to do is we want to make the text of this label equal to the string of the global money variable. So we've turned global money into a string. We can add a little plus right before this and some quotes right before the plus, and we can write money and put a little colon and a space, so that it says money and then it shows us the number. All right. So that should, if we hit save and we hit play and then we go and we click our plant buttons, see it says money 0 right now. But if we click the plants, oh look, every time we click the button, it adds 1 to money for us. And we can click any of the plant buttons and it's gonna add us money. Cool, awesome. At this point, I don't want it to add money until we've harvested the plant. So let's go work on a harvesting mechanic, all right? We're back. I've clicked on the plant script. If you lost it somehow, you can go ahead and click on one of the plant scenes, or it should still be open up in the top bar here, and then you can click into the plant script like that. That's how you switch scripts, or your script should normally just be open right here. You can click back and forth between them. We're going to be in the plant script for now. All right. So in order to make sure that we are only getting money when we harvest the plant, we need to create different states for the plant. We need like an ungrown state, a growing state, and a harvestable state. So I'm going to make a variable that's going to hold the state of the plant. So I'm going to name it var plant state. And the initial plant state is going to be not grown, right? Because it hasn't been grown yet. So we're going to type in not grown. Make sure you type this in properly, all right? And we want a couple things to happen. When we press this button, we just want it to grow the plant. And then when the animation is finished, we want to be able to press the button again to have it be harvested. And then we want the money to be given once it's harvested. So we got to create a conditional statement here. So I'm going to get rid of this global.money plus equals 1 just for now. And we are going to make, for now, let's just make one that grows the plant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment here. So if I do shift number sign, I can write some code that will, it's just text. It's for me to know what's going on. So I'm going to write some code here that says grow plant. And I'm going to write down here some more code that says harvest plant. Because it's going to get a little interesting here because this button is going to do a couple of different things. All right. So we're going to make an if statement here. I'm going to say if plant state is double equal sign. If plant state is equal to not grown. So if the plant isn't grown yet, make sure you do a colon. And then hit enter. And it looks like we need to put this animation player over. We're going to do tab. Make sure you've got an if statement like this. It looks like that. It's got the tab and everything. If the plant is not grown, grow the plant. Okay? That makes sense. Once you've grown the plant, change the plant state to plant state equals grown. Sweet. So once the plant finishes growing, it's going to change the plant state to grown. So the game will know, okay, the plant, this one is grown. And for us to understand that the plant is growing, I'm actually going to take this button up here. You can grab that. I'm going to bring the button in. Remember, click and drag, control, unclick. We're going to change the text on the button. So if the plant is not grown, play the animation. I'm going to change the button to just say button.text equals ... So if it's not grown and we hit play, the button text will just say ... to kind of show that it's growing, and it will grow. And then the plant state will change to grown. Cool. So far, so good. I also want to disable the button so that nobody clicks it on accident to like reset this, because if they keep clicking it really fast, it will like keep running through this code. So we're going to disable the button. Button.disabled equals true. And that should work. So let's just test that really quick. I'm going to hit play. And I'm going to zoom out. So if I hit this, sweet, it turns into a ... We can't see the plant state, but I can't click this anymore because the button has been disabled. So all of these, changes to a dot, 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 and it grows. So sweet, it grows the plant. Now at this point, once it finishes growing, we want it to say harvest. So let's just do that next. So once it finishes growing, we want it to say harvest. To get it to say harvest, right now when we click the button, it does this stuff. But we can't make it say harvest here because we can't click the button because we've disabled it. So the only other place we can change it to say harvest and re-enable the button is when the animation ends. That's our other trigger point. So we're going to go up here to animation player and we're going to go to the animation player signals. So it's on node. We're going to go all the way down to animation finished. We're going to click connect. And we're going to connect this animation to plant. Now, it says on animation player finished, do something. Well, when the animation player finishes, we want to re-enable the button. So button dot disabled equals false. And we want the button to say harvest. Button dot text equals harvest. Right? Sweet. So let's see if that works. I'm just gonna play the game. So it grows. Awesome. It changes to say harvest now, but if we click it again, it doesn't do anything because we haven't updated the state. It's still in the not grown state. So plant state equals grown. So now that it's grown and I'm clicking the button, it's running through here and it's like, okay, I don't know what to do if the plant state is grown. You said if it says not grown, I should play the animation and disable the button. But now that it's grown, what do I do? So we got to give it some more instructions here. We're going to do an elif statement. Right here, so type in elif. I'm not going to explain too much what that does right now. It's just basically the game checks to see if it can do this. If it can't, it will check the elif statement. And if it can't do the elif statement, it will freak out. But we should cover our bases with this. I accidentally deleted that text. This should say harvest plant. So we're going to give it some instructions. Elif, if, you can just look at this as an if statement. If the plant state is equal to grown, so because we changed it to grown here, then when we click the button again, it will check this. If it's equal to grown, what do we want it to do? Well, we want it to reset the animation. So we want it to change it back to it's being just a nub. So maybe we do animation player dot play reset, because it has, when we reset it, it will put it back at its first frame of animation. So that's good. And then we want to we want to add money, right? Because when we harvest it, so it's gonna put it back to the main thing, and then we're gonna add money to it. So global dot money plus equals 1. Awesome. And then we want to change the button text. So we don't want it to say harvest anymore. We want it to say button dot text equals plant. Sweet. So that should do everything, I think. Let's double check. Let's see if this works. So we plant it, it grows. As soon as it's done, it says harvest. When we click harvest, sick, it gives us money. But it didn't change the text back. Oof. Oh, and now it's definitely not working. Why is that happening? Oh, we didn't change the state back. Ah. Plant state is now equal to not grown. Test it again. It goes, it grows, we harvest it, and we're good to go. It doesn't change the text back for some reason, which is weird. So let's figure that out. I think it's because we play the animation player. Whenever it finishes, it changes it to harvest. So what we're going to have to do here, instead of animation player.play, is we're going to do the texture rect. So we're going to grab the texture rect up here, drag that in, and instead of animation player here, we're going to delete this line and we're going to type in texture rect dot texture equals null. So we're just going to set the texture to empty, and that should work. So yeah, we're going to hit play. It says harvest. It sets it to empty. Plant. Harvest. Good. Sweet. So now it'd be sweet if we had a couple of upgrades up here. One upgrade to make it go faster, and another upgrade to add more plants, right? We want to spend our money on some stuff. So let's go ahead and add that stuff. So our plants are already growing pretty fast. So I think I'm going to click on our animation player and I'm going to change the speed scale to 0.25 just so that it grows slower, so that there's room for when we add our speed upgrades. But let's go ahead and click on control. We're going to be back here, and in this HBox container, right with our money label, we're going to add a couple more things. We're going to add 2 more HBox containers. So one, and then you can just click on this one and duplicate it. Inside of this, well, actually, we'll just add one. Sorry. So we're going to add this HBox container. Inside of this HBox container, we're going to add a button. And we're going to click on it again, and we're going to add a label. And then we're going to size this up properly. So this full HBox container is already good to go. This money label looks like we're going to come over here and we're going to look into layout. And horizontally, we do want it to expand. Same thing with this HBox container. I'm going to go over to layout. We also want this to expand. We don't really care about vertically. Probably want it to shrink to the beginning, but horizontally, we do want it to expand. Same in here with this button. This button is just going to say buy. Say buy speed. And this label, we'll call this the speed button. This label, we'll call this the speed label. I'm going to teach you how to do tooltips too. Instead of the speed label, we can say speed is X. Cool. And then in here, you know, it's expanded. Yeah, go ahead and click on this HBox container and do Control D. Now you've made another upgrade. It's still called speed, so this one we're going to have to change, rename it, and call it the plant, so buy plant button, and then the plant label, I guess. Oops. Sweet. You've got these 2 upgrades. Make sure here you also change this. It says buy speed, so make sure you say this to buy plant. And then the plant label, make sure you say it, you change it to say plant. So as you can see, this is the beginnings of some stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and in our control here, let's go ahead and connect our speed button. So you click speed. You've done this a million times, but I'm going to go over it again. Click speed, click node, click press, click connect, connect it. We're also going to connect our buy plant button. Click buy plant button, click node, click press, click connect, and connect it. And now we have our speed button and our plant button. And both of these are going to do a couple of things for us. So let's check it out. First things we're going to do is let's set the price. Let's work on the speed upgrade and let's set the price here. So I'm just going to do that up here. Var speed price. Just set it to 1 for now. We're also going to do some tooltips. So in order to do tooltips, we need access to this speed button. So I'm going to grab the speed button again. It's right here. Grab it, drag it over, hold down Control, let go. We've got access to our speed button. So inside of this process loop, so I didn't really talk about what this does, but if you put labels in here, this process loop just runs whatever your frame rate is. So if it's 60 frames a second, it runs 60 times every second, and it just updates whatever you have in here. So right now I'm just saying, hey, update this text to make it say money, and grab the money variable and, update that text 60 times a second. Similarly, we want to take the speed button and on the tooltip, so speed button dot tool tip text, we're going to use the built-in Godot tooltip system because it's good enough. And we're going to make the tooltip text say string. Sorry, we're going to say quotes price colon, and then outside the quotes a plus, and then inside of a string speed price. So we're taking this speed price variable and we're saying, hey, inside the tooltip, make it say price, speed price. All right, so let's go ahead and check that out inside the game. If we mouse over our speed button, you can see that it says price 1. So we'll be able to check the price by mousing over it. It takes some UI off the screen and it teaches you a little bit how to do tooltips. That's how you do tooltips. So we're going to do the same. We'll just work on the speed button for now. So in order to increase the speed of all the plants, we need to do a couple of things. First of all, we need to go back to our global script. So let's go down here, click global. We'll come up here. I want to make a var called plant speed, and it should be equal to 0.25 because that's what our speed scale is equal to. Now let's go back to control, and actually let's go to plant. So how about every time the plant button is pressed, because when we press it, it's most likely, it's probably going to start our animation. So every time we go here, we're going to say animation player dot speed scale equals global dot plant speed. So all I'm saying is that this animation player, it has a speed scale. And every time we hit the button, it goes to our global and it grabs the speed scale from global. So the speed scale equals 0.25. That's what we set it to in global. And what we're going to do is in our control, whenever we press this speed button, we're going to say global dot plant speed plus equals 0.1. So it's going to keep making that speed go higher and get better, but we need to charge a price for that. So we got to say if global dot money is greater than or equal to speed price, then update the plant speed, and also subtract the money. Global dot money minus equals speed price. And then also we should probably make the speed price cost more every time. So we're going to say speed price equals speed price. Maybe we should say, yes, equals speed price plus speed price times 0.1. So that'll update it by 10% every time. And if we wrap this in a snapped, I'm not telling you what this does. So, all right, cool. Let's just do this for now. Fix that later. So update the speed price. We're going to say speed price. So it's the speed price is 1. So then we'll take 1 plus 1 times 0.1, which is going to equal 0.1. So the new speed price will be 1.1. And then the next time it'll say 1.1 plus 1.1 times 0.1, which will equal like 1.17 or whatever. And it will add it on and it'll just get slowly bigger and bigger, but our speed will increase. I'm going to go ahead and global and just set our money to like 40 just so that we can experiment with this. And we'll go ahead and we'll start the game. So we're growing our plant. And it should get us some money. We already have some money, but I just wanted to see what the speed looked like. Harvesting it. Look, we got 41. Cool. So I'm going to buy some speed. We don't have the speed displayed yet, which we will in a second. But as you can see, as I'm buying it, it's subtracting money. And we can see the price is increasing. It's got all these decimals on it, which I don't like. We'll fix that later. But the speed should be pretty quick now. So there we go. Now it's growing faster, and it looks like it does apply to all the plants because whenever I click the button, it's setting its speed scale. So that works. Let's fix the decimal issue and the display issue. So if you come right here and you type in snapped, this is a fun little function that basically what it does, actually do this, is it takes whatever number this is. So this equation will give us the number. Let's just say it's 1.179, whatever it ends up equaling. It will take, if it's 1.17987, whatever, it will chop off the variable amount past this. So if it's 0.01, that's what I told it. It won't actually take this amount, it just takes these two decimals. So it basically says any number that has more than 2 decimals, it will slice it off. And that is what we want. So if we go back into the game, we start buying speed upgrades, we can see that they aren't those big long decimals anymore. They're like regular money amounts. And you can see this isn't a bunch of decimals either. So that is solved that issue. Sweet. All right, cool. How about displaying the speed price? Well, let's go into control. Let's grab the speed label. And inside of process, let's go ahead and say speed label dot text equals speed. And we're going to type in string global dot plant speed. Pretty sure that's what it equals, right? Global, yeah, plant speed. We got to put a plus right here. My bad. Sweet. So that should also go ahead and display, yeah, speed is 0.25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, whatever the heck. Cool. You can see your speed going up, and you can see these doing that. Awesome. Cool. All right. Now, what about this buy plant pressed? That's going to take a little bit of time. What do we want this to do? Well, when we click on this, we want this to spawn another plant. So let's take a look at how to do that. Right, before we charge money for it, let's just try to make this work. Let's just try to make it spawn more plants. So first of all, I only want in my game, I had these here before just to test things, but now that we're going to spawn more plants, I'm going to delete these. So we just have one plant. That's fine. And I'm going to go here. And what you need is you need the scene that you want to spawn. So it doesn't really matter where you put variables as long as they're outside of a function. Sometimes I like to put variables right above the function that they're going to be used inside of. So I'm going to put the variables above this function here just so it's easier to see. So I'm going to grab this plant, same as always. We click and drag it, you hold down control, and what it's going to do, this is a type of variable called a constant. Basically just means this isn't going to change. This is going to stay the same forever, and that's okay. It's called plant. So this is our plant scene. Remember how we made this plant scene right here? So this variable is this whole packed plant scene that we want to spawn. So that's what we're going to do inside of this function. We're going to spawn the plant scene. Now, in order to spawn the plant scene, we need to have a location that we're going to spawn the plant scene. And we want the plant scene to land inside of this grid container like this other plant scene is, because it's designed to live inside of that grid container. So we're going to grab this grid container. We're going to make a variable here called grid container, and we're good to go. So let's write some code here. And what we're going to do is we're going to write plant. We'll charge some money for it later, but like I said, for now, let's just hit the button and have a plant scene spawn. So plant dot, well, actually, we need to make a variable first. So var, whenever I'm spawning something, I usually just use the variable new because it's a new thing, but you could call this new plant. You could call it plant. You call it whatever you want. I just call it new so that I know it's like a new thing that's being spawned into the game. So var new equals capital plant equals plant and dot instantiate. So you can't just make it equal plant because this isn't a full game object. It's like a packed, it's a blueprint. So when you say instantiate, it takes your blueprint and it turns it into a real game object. It grabs all the pieces and it grabs the script and it turns it into a game object. So new is equal to our new game object, and we want our new game object inside of our grid container. So we're going to say grid container dot add child, because we want the grid container to be added. That's why you have all this hierarchy stuff. So grid container is a child of scroll container. Plant is a child of grid container. You can see it's inside of it. So we want to put our new plant inside of the grid container. Yes. I think that's all. I think that's how you do it. So let's go ahead and test it. So I'll play the game. If I hit this buy button, yeah, there you go. It adds new plants. Sweet. Cool. Oh my gosh, it's not adding more. Yes, it is. See how you got the scroll bar now? That's what the scroll container does. So maybe if you're like, what does the scroll container do? Well, if we just made the grid container and didn't put it inside of a scroll container, we wouldn't be able to scroll on forever. But now you can add as many plants as you want. All the way down. Forever. Make yourself an incremental game. And these all work. And they're all going to give you money. Maybe you devise a way to come up with an upgrade that allows you to click all the plants at once. So, ha 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 ha. Let's finish this up, though. We'll come back and we will, first things first, we're going to change our money back to 0 inside of global. And let's finish up our plant. So we're back in our control. Let's charge some money for this. Let's make a variable called plant price. Have it equal 1. And we'll say if global dot money is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to plant price, instantiate this thing and global dot money minus equals plant price, and then we're gonna steal this from right up here. That says speed price, but we're just gonna change this to say plant price because it's gonna be the same formula to change the price. So there we go. We do also need to update. We need to add a tooltip and a text label for the plant price. So we're going to get the plant button and the plant label. And we're going to copy and paste both of these. And we're going to say plant label and buy button. I'm going to say price, and we want this to say plant price. And we want this to say not speed. We want this to say plants. And for that, we actually need to make a new variable called plants. Var plants equals 0. And every single time you buy a new plant, you need to iterate on plants. Plants plus equals 1. And then we need to put plants in here. If you did not follow all of that, I did go kind of quick. That was just for the display. Just copy what I did there. It's pretty straightforward stuff you could understand if you slow down and tried to understand it. This doesn't do anything. This is just a counter that counts how many plants we have. So every time we buy a plant, it adds a count so that we can display how many plants we have. So as you'll be able to see, I don't have any money, but when I buy a plant, see, I have 0 plants. That's actually not true. I have 1 plant. So we're gonna have to make that say 1 instead of 0. But when I harvest this and I have the money and I buy a plant, now it goes up to another one because I have 2. Sweet. That's the game, guys. That's all I have. Remember, if you want some private lessons, fill out the Google form. If you want other types of tutorials, let me know in the description. Course will be ready in the near future for more advanced stuff. This stuff is pretty straightforward and beginner friendly, but I can break down exactly how I make the games that I make because it only gets more complicated from here. And if you need help with all that, I got you covered, especially if you like incremental games. Most of these are going to be somewhat incremental based. The next tutorial I'm going to make is going to be a tutorial on a basic, somewhat text-based, turn-based RPG dungeon crawler type thing. But again, it'll be just a 1 hour-ish, 30-40 minute tutorial, teach you how to make the whole game. Send me stuff in the Discord. If you made this, put it in the Discord. I will feature it in the next tutorial video, and I'll be super stoked to see what people take and do with this. Maybe this is a dumb game that people don't like. That's fine. But if you like it, make it your own. Post about it. Use it. Steal the code. Go make $1 million. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. We've got quite a few people supporting. If you support me on Patreon at any tier, your name will get featured in the credits. If you support at the tester tier, your name will be in the credits of video game projects that I release in the future. So go check out the Patreon. If you'd like private lessons, there's a Google form in the description that you can fill out for private lessons. Look forward to some future tutorials. I am also working on some devlogs and game essays that will be coming out in the next couple of months. But Next Fest is around the corner, so I am very focused right now on finishing up my execute demo for Next Fest. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me. We'll catch you next time.